Yes, everybody, and welcome back to TarIllustrated.com. I'm Jacob Turner. He's Andrew Jones. We're here for another edition of our Daily Drop podcast series. And AJ, we're here to talk about Carolina officially moving over to a grass field again in Kenan Stadium. The reason we wanted to come on here and talk about it is about a week or so ago now, Michael Lombardi, Carolina's GM on the football side, came out and, kind of officially not unveiled it, but kind of talked about why he felt and why him and Bill Belichick felt the need to switch back to a grass field in Kenan Stadium. I know when I heard the news, I was incredibly excited about it. He also mentioned potentially wanting to bring the Hedges back. They haven't done that yet, but that's something they want to do at some point and look into the future, which I would absolutely love. I've got a lot of history with those Hedges too, which I'll talk about a little bit later on in this one. But for me, turf makes a ton of sense. I get his reasoning, grass makes a ton of sense. I get his reason for wanting to do it. He kind of told a story during when they first kind of got to Carolina. They're looking out at the field and they're like, wait, why do we not have grass here? We got great weather in North Carolina, and every players want to play on grass. It's better than turf. And again, I agreed with a lot of the things he said about it. So what were your thoughts on the move to grass? I know we've talked about it a little bit before, but not the most exciting podcast topic in the world. We're here talking about grass and turf, but we felt it was worth talking about a little bit because, it is a big change back for North Carolina. And I think it historically, having grass in Kenan Stadium is a absolute no-brainer. It makes a lot of sense.
If I'm anything like most guys that have ever played football from ankle biters on up, you want to get your uniform dirty, man. No. Because if your uniform's dirty, it means you played a lot, right?
Yeah.
In the artificial turf era, everybody looks the same at the end of the game, unless you bled.
You got a little blood. I mean, you got a little black rubber bead.
I can channel my 86 16-yard lead drive Alexandria, Virginia, AJ, way back in the day, where, I want grass because I want players to be dirty. I want uniforms to be dirty. I know that when talking to players back in the day, after a game, you could smell the field on them. Can't smell the field on them when they play on turf. It's just BO, right? There's something about the smell of grass that is special, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, the grass stains, if it's rainy weather, how the field gets a little torn up. I like watching old videos of the 70s and 80s, and a lot of times in those multi-use stadiums where they'd play football and baseball in the same stadium. Early in the year, they wouldn't put grass over the infield. So if it rained, it'd be a mud bath. I mean, I was all about that, man. All about dirty uniforms. So first and foremost, the little AJ in me wants to talk about how the uniforms will be dirty again. So I like that. I agree. I can understand why Mac did it. And he gave us a tour in his first year back, and after they'd installed everything. And I was standing in the end zone right by the tunnel talking to him. And I asked him about the hedges. He said, "Oh, no, hedges aren't coming back. Can't have them out here. It's artificial." And I'm like, well, what's Ramsey's going to graze on?
Yeah, come on, Mac.
The hedges are the hedges. I mean, that's part of the thing. But I understood why. Now they still have artificial turf on the outside of the field, like the sidelines. So they're going to, I guess
that's fine. That makes sense. Yeah.
But you can't do that, have the hedges, unless you mulch and all that kind of crap. I don't know how much they want to do that. That's kind of ridiculous. Plus, it's still really hot on Ramsey's paws out there. Never like that. I think it should all be grass. The whole thing should be grass. Bring the hedges back. I like that. And one of the reasons that they thought about this was because, other than the injury factors you talked about and kids don't want to play, it's you want to play in the same soil in some way that Choo-Choo played on.
Yeah.
You want to play in the same soil that Weiner played on, Willard, McCauley, Bunting, Curry, Betterson, Voigt, Lawrence, Bryant, Taylor, Wilcher, Blados, all those guys, Johnson and Johnson, Stanisic, Vonnie Holiday and Peppers and Switzer and Gio and
Darian Durant, you know what I'm saying?
Durant, all those guys. Mm-hmm. You want to play on the field those guys played on. They're all about bringing all that stuff back. I took pictures of the 5 new plaques that are just off the main part of the lobby in the football center when I was there last week for the press conference. And there's 2 coaches there that people wouldn't think about, Jim Tatum and Carl Snavely, the 3 players, McCauley, Weiner, Choo-Choo. Mm-hmm. They want to bring that stuff back. And I think grass is part of bringing Carolina back to a time that when they were scouting players, especially in the earlier days in their careers, they were always looking at tape of North Carolina because North Carolina was loaded with NFL talent, especially on the defensive side of the ball. The first position coach Lawrence Taylor ever had was a guy named Bill Belichick, linebacker coach of the New York Giants. So they want to recreate a lot of that. They want to honor a lot of that by bringing it back. I'm all about that stuff, man. I've been talking about it. I was talking with someone in the program last week about it and said, look, there's so many more great players and big time noteworthy players than there have been teams. So there have been a lot of teams that sort of bump their heads and don't get through, or they get close to bumping their heads, and they have those kind of players on there. They just haven't broken through on the football side, but there have been a lot of really good players. Celebrate them, honor them, and part of going to grass is honoring them. There have been some really good players, obviously, in the artificial stuff. Drake didn't play on grass, Sam didn't play on grass, etc. But the majority of the history obviously did, and I just think it's a salute to them, and it looks better, it makes more sense. Mac also, by the way, they bring in a ton of recruits in the offseason, and they look out in the field, always look great. You and I, remember when we used to do Monday pressers, we'd end up working in that upstairs players lounge area, and we'd look out and the field was immaculate. It looked great. Yeah. It looked phenomenal. And we go in there for the February signing day presser. You look outside, field looks immaculate. Middle of the season. It always looked great. Grass doesn't always look great. But grass is grass. Grass is king, right?
Yeah, 100%. And I think it speaks to, again, the history and the culture of the program, because I've said it before, but I've been going to Carolina games for 15 years. My dad's had season tickets in the same seats for 15 plus years at this point. And one of the, even before we got season tickets, we were still going to a few games every year when we moved to North Carolina in about 2003. So we've gone to games before that a little bit too. But one of the things that was so synonymous. One of the things that's so synonymous with Carolina fans is I think a lot of Carolina fans have been going to games where I have a little bit of a tradition of what they do before games, do after games. And one of the things that we did before games, AJ, was we would always go down to the Hedges and we would watch the O-linemen and the team kind of warm up down there. And they also, for people who remember, they had the Hedges down there, but they also had kind of the green walkway, kind of concrete walkway you could walk on. Yeah. And they would let you go down there and you'd see kids throwing footballs down there. I have pictures in front of the hedgerows, but that was like one of my favorite kind of game day traditions, was to go down there and, I'm up close with the team and I could watch them stretch and watch them warm up. It kind of got you in that game mode. Now there's a lot of Carolina fans watching this, a lot older than me and young, and around my age, that can relate to that. That was kind of a special time and a unique thing about North Carolina that made it different. And one of the things that we've talked about a lot is, Carolina, you talk about individual players, honoring individual players. I think Carolina's done a bad job of doing that in the last 10 years plus. And I'll tell you why in a second. But 40 years in particular. I'll tell you why I say 10 years in a second.
Let's say it's been forever.
Yeah, that's a good point. And one of the things that Carolina is an institution, though, funny enough, is so about is history. I mean, they talk about it all the time. Just go look up in the basketball arena, man. Like, it's a freaking museum. But on the football side, they've gotten away from that. And you strip away the hedges. You strip away the green walkway. You turn it to turf, which isn't synonymous with Carolina. You get rid of the reason I said 10 years or so a second ago was they got rid of the boards that used to go around the field that used to, and they replaced it with video boards, which I get, whatever. But all around those boards, we used to bang on those boards during games because we sat on the front row of the upper deck, and it would make a louder experience, but you could look around. I remember as a little kid, AJ, I didn't know anything. This is one of the ways I learned about the history of Carolina football. I wasn't going in the museum before a game. I think I did that a couple times, but that wasn't our game day routine. But I knew whose name was in front of the seats we sat on. I could look around and see, ooh, Julius Pepper, ooh, Don McCauley. I mean, those were exciting things then. That's ways that I learned about Carolina and learned about the tradition. You walk in the stadium now, especially the last couple of years with turf, and it was so different than what I was used to. And the history had gone. The things the traditions that were so special to me as a kid and special to a lot of Carolina fans were stripped away from the program. And again, I think a lot of people don't care about that stuff, but I know there's a lot of people out there that really do care about that stuff. So bringing the hedges back, bringing the grass back, trying to do some things that they're doing with honoring the history a little bit more. It's great you're doing it in the museum, but you have to bring it into the stadium because not everybody goes in the museum before a game. So these are things that I think Michael Lombardi and Bill Belichick are focusing on a little bit more. And I personally love that kind of stuff. And I know you two do too as well. So I hope they bring the hedges back. But number one, I love the grass. I even as an athlete, I grew up playing soccer at a high level. Give me grass over turf, especially good grass over turf, every single day of the week. It's not even close. So yeah, I think they're doing some really nice things, but I still want to see more history honored in the stadium. That when you go sit in that football stadium, you don't have to go walk in the museum for an hour to figure out about this program. You can just look around and learn about it, or walk the concourse and learn about it. They got to do a better job of that, AJ. They got away from that, and it's a shame they got away from that.
And I've got a written series coming up about statue worthy. It's statues, busts, and plaques. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of them. I agree with you 100%. Here's a weird take. Maybe I'm off my rocker. I've always thought of artificial turf as being lazy.
It is, because you plop it down and that's all you do. You don't do anything to it.
You just got to, they don't even like the old artificial turf, you had to vacuum.
You should see the videos coming out before a game, AJ, them painting the end zones, painting the lines. That's football, man. That's sports, not just some, plastic field on some concrete kind of thing.
You got to maintain the field.
You talked about jerseys getting dirty, AJ. You know what I saw on the field during the games? No grass sticking to players. It was freaking those little beads, rubber beads. I hate those things.
And let me add this one other little vignette about Mac, because it would be unfair to forget to leave this out. I just remembered one of the reasons he did it, and he didn't do it because he's lazy. It's not what I'm inferring.
Speed.
If you remember his introductory press conference over in the blue zone, upstairs in the blue zone, he and Sally walked the field from that end zone to the tunnel afterward. And remember, this is at the end of that period where the field was all messed up for a couple of years. They didn't have a place to practice. They were building the indoor football practice facility, and Larry's last two teams had to practice on the field in Keene Stadium. The kickers would have to go over to what is the field hockey stadium. Back then, it was like an auxiliary recreational field, and that's where they would work out. They'd have to cross the street and go over there and kick with very little supervision. And the football team was practicing in Keene. You went to some practices there, and they were squeezed in. And they would get a new field. They would finish practicing on Thursday, kind of early, and then a group would come in right away. If you ever went to a Thursday post-practice interview, which we occasionally got, you'd see all the tractors and trucks ready to go. Mm-hmm. And they would pull up the field and they'd lay down a new field because they were destroying it. So when Mac and Sally walked the field, it had been very rainy. In fact, that was right after around the time Javonte Williams was offered the scholarship, because he had that great state championship game on a nasty field. And the field was lumpy. It wasn't even. It was uncomfortable. It was sort of chewed up and muddier than it should have been. The grass wasn't. You could tell it was a makeshift field, and it sucked. Mm-hmm. So he walked on that and said, we got to do something about this. Yeah. And we got to do something about it, make it easy. So he did what he did. I get it. Mm-hmm. It made total sense. But you know what? Doing it when they did it now, they had time to really get the field in there and give it a good, 8 months before they play a game on it, an actual game on it. So the field would be perfect by the time they play. So I understand why Mac did it. Big time. I totally understand. No denigration at all about that. I also understand and applaud why they're doing it now, not to mention the fact that guys are going to be dirty.
Yeah, man. It just fits with Carolina more. And again, it's this stadium in the middle of campus with all these pine trees surrounding it. And, the stadium can't be taller than the pine trees. And you've got this plastic field in the middle of it. It just doesn't fit.
Some of those things are going to change.
Yeah. But again, that's what Carolina's synonymous with. It just doesn't fit.
Yeah. I think you got to make football matter. And a lot of small schools had artificial turf because it's cheaper in the long run. High schools everywhere have it.
Oh, I get it. Yeah.
But if it's grass, that's a commitment to having a great field every week. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just think grass exudes commitment. Now, I know that there's Ohio State and others, Oregon, that they don't have grass. That's fine. I'm not saying they're not committed. They don't have to convince anybody of that. North Carolina's got to convince people they're committed. Mm-hmm. Having a great grass field that shows pride every week, I think that's part of that process.
Yeah, I completely agree. And again, it just fits the history more. And when I think of the history of Carolina, like I said, a lot of it for me as a guy who's getting ready to turn 30 is that those hedges and those grass fields. I mean, that's what I think of. So you get rid of that. And again, especially with the boards and all these history, you get rid of it. You take away a little bit of the soul of that stadium. And I think this is just something that helps, especially bring those hedges back. I really think that just helps.
I don't want them to bring that. The walkway though, I
liked it because you could go down there.
A high school game. You go to a high school football game where half the student body's down there just socializing, walking around.
Aesthetically, no.
It was that at Carolina too much. If you're going to be in the stadium, sit your butt in the seat and watch the game. Mm-hmm. And I got ideas about the Blue Zone too, about locking it during games, like not serving alcohol up there during games. You only had to go in there and use the restroom. You got to come back out. But that's a different topic for a different podcast. That'll be a July podcast. AJ's rules about the Blue Zone.
Yeah,
so people are sitting there.
Let's build a Blue Zone that has an AC.
I also
huge area.
They should get some kind. You have sunglasses, right? Mm-hmm. Get some kind of screen that they can erect when it's super sunny out, so the people on the opposite side, some of the sun is tinted, so they don't get cooked out there.
That's what I'm saying about the Blue Zone is like it's a beautiful facility, but you got this huge air conditioning, free food, food and beverage area you can hang out in when you're just getting beamed by the sun. It's just like I don't blame them, but it's like you're getting beamed over there.
Serve people, have them go serve them in the stands there, or build all those luxury suites like we've talked about, and turn the Blue Zone into 21 and over. Have it locked during the game from the beginning of the first quarter to the end of the second quarter, open it at halftime, and then close at the beginning of the third quarter and to the end of the game. We keep it open for like 2 hours after the game so people stay there.
Yeah.
They can party and have a good time and all that kind of junk. And 21 and over, sell the seats for kind of cheap. You make a lot of money on beverages and have people come serve them out in the stands. Those are the kinds of things that need to happen.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree.
We got to stop now. We're going to continue going forever. The podcast that we're going to do in July, we'll just end up doing now.
Pretty much. Yeah. We've talked about some of this stuff before, and I know you and Bryant did one kind of on how you can improve the game day experience as well. We'll continue to talk about it, but I think this is a step in the right direction. I love it. And bring the hedges back. And again, bring the board. They're not going to do it because they got video boards now, and I get it, but bring the boards. You got to honor the players in the stadium somehow, because if not, there's just no history there unless you go in the museum. And I think that's a shame because Carolina's an historic program, but despite what a lot of people might think, because a lot of outsiders who don't know anything about Carolina, you walk in the stadium and you're like, Carolina doesn't have any football history. Like, I don't know, because you got to show it off because they do. They really do.
The Choo-Choo statue is awesome, but how many people get to that part?
Yeah, it's kind of like down. It's in a hole. Like, yeah, people
you have to go down the steps.
Yeah.
To get to the front entrance of the football. I had to go there last week for the press conference because the main part of the stadium was cut off because there was a soccer match that night.
Yeah.
So they'd already cut it off. And the Choo-Choo statue is beautiful. It's awesome.
Yeah,
but who's going to see it? I think that you have that Choo-Choo statue, then you have another one of him. He's walking in that one. It's beautiful. Have another one of him running the ball. And it's out in what I would consider like a statue park, a monument park, sort of like what the Yankees have on the hospital side of the stadium.
Yeah, by what the main
massive area, and you can have it sponsored. And you've got you've got tiers of Carolina greats. You've got the statues, which is LT, and Julius Peppers deserves a statue. Guys like that. Then you've got the busts, which are the next tier of guys. Then you've got the plaques, which is the next tier of guys. Give people a reason to come in early, spend time there. There's all kinds of things you can do. But again, we're going to have to stop this now because Brian and I did some of that, and I could go on forever about this. And I do have a statue, bust, plaque series coming up.
I love it. Yeah, no, just let us know in the comments. Do you like the grass? Are you going to miss the turf? Do you remember the hedges? You used to go down there like I did, and kind of watch the teams warm up in the hedges, or if you're younger than me, kind of throw football. Now I used to do that a little bit, throw the football down there on the walkway. Like that's stuff that I have very, very vivid memories from my childhood. So let us know in the comments, get involved. We want to hear from you guys as always. I've been Jacob Turner. He's been Andrew Jones. Another edition of our Daily Drop podcast series. Make sure you guys keep it locked. charleshow.com, all our socials. Announcements coming sooner rather than later. Some exciting kind of things in the works, but not there yet. So Yeah, well, cross the T's and dot the I's first. You're going to hate me for saying that, AJ, but I had to go ahead and let that fly.
It's okay. Cross the T's, dot the I's. I say it way too often. I write it. I say it. It's one of those trite things that gets so stuck in my head and I can't get it out.
It works though, doesn't it? It's effective in what you're trying to say. So I had to let it fly right there. But all right, guys, we appreciate it all as always.
Thanks.
See y'all next time. Thanks.